Welcome to the garden, sit back, kick off your shoes a minute. Broke the busyness for life, you know we're choosy with it. Sprung up from the soul, soon I'm gonna be snoozing in it. Got so many breaths, I take them deep, won't introduce a limit. Cause it's a season, no rest. How can I live when I'm deceased and depressed? I dug deep and I found peace in the chest. Can't no one take that from me, not even the press. I'm just one man, one woman. You maybe missed my genesis, I've been there, stepped through it. You must have missed my exodus. Leave out a cut step to me, I'ma flip it. Cause I'm chef to this, the numbers stood around. I mean now I don't stem to arithmetics. Hit the brakes, slow it down and we gon' get the pace. On the racement of every nation, ain't no Chevy Chase. Though I got one too, it's a box 1 2.
I'm here for it, man.
Shout out to Colony One.
Yeah, Colony One. It's just the way to... If you're going to do a podcast in the garden, I feel like I have to start with that.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the garden. Sit, take off your shoes. Back and listen. I love that. You know what I mean?
So
it's
good.
Just,
so good.
It just sets the mood. All right. What should we start out with?
Which one would you rather have? It doesn't bother me.
Both at the same time.
Both at the same time. Deal.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah. Welcome, Phil. Welcome
Thanks
to
for
the
having
garden.
me, bud.
Yeah. You're talking about bees.
Yeah.
Right, tell me again what you were saying about bees.
Oh, when I was a kid, I was terrified of them.
They're everywhere.
Yeah. One of them would just send me into frantic spasm because
You'd see it.
Well, when I get stung, I swell up. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it's as far as it goes. But when I was a kid, I got stung once on the chin, and it blew up my chin so badly that my brother called me Potato Head for a year and a half.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I was gonna. They are everywhere on these sunflowers. It's crazy.
They're just vibing though, man. It's crazy.
They're just pollinating. They're pollinating hard.
Yeah, you can see one of them landed right here, and there's just so much yellow on him. There's so much pollen. It's crazy.
It's gonna go turn into honey.
Yeah.
I know there's a nest. Some of these sunflowers we're definitely gonna have to harvest.
Yeah. There's a couple of them huge.
I remember when I was young, my parents went to. We all went for like a church camp out or something like that.
Yeah.
So we're at this campgrounds with a bunch of church people, and we brought my little bike, and I was with all my little church buddies, and we were biking around and doing stuff. And there was this little trail through the woods from the campground to, I don't know, either some play fields or who knows what. Yeah. So I'm going through this trail, and this blue wasp comes down. Right. Yeah, it was like a blue, glittery blue, or maybe like a blackish, but it looked blue to me. It comes and stings me on the top of my lip. Boom. Yeah. And it hits me. So maybe I'm just like flying through and I hit it, or I hit its nest, or I don't remember what, but I remember biking, it hitting me and screaming back to my mom.
Oh, wow.
That's how our dad's cabin where we were, our camp or tent or wherever we were. And I get there, and my lip swells up. It was my bottom lip. That's what it was. Swells up so big that all the kids, we have a picture of me with my swollen lip, then all my church friends taking their lips and going like this.
Oh, wow.
Like just pouting their lips out to make it match as big as my lip is swollen.
Hilarious.
So there's all of us like in a line. I remember that was not a good memory, but I remember it. It's a very vivid memory of getting stung.
We had stuff like that when I was a kid too, as far as like church camping groups. But we would just, my church was at, there was a big wooded area behind it. So we would just have the whole church over. We spend the night. It was so much fun.
Yeah, just all hanging out, and that's a good way to just live a little bit. Absolutely. That's community. They've got so much pollen, and they're just like adding to it. They're just like shaking a little bit, and then somewhere I was watching, it was probably Twitter, they're talking about how bees communicate, and the way that they shake and vibrate tells directions. So they're literally giving pinpointed directions, like go west when they shake this way, when they dance this way. It's all based on the position of the sun.
Like a whole community that talks to each other by dancing.
I know other communities that do that. It's like sign language, but with your feet.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It is wild. I was watching another thing on Twitter. Twitter is I'm never going to call it X. I'm always going to call it Twitter. I feel like that's just what it is.
I'm not fully with that. Doesn't really make sense to me.
Hasn't hit my psyche yet. I haven't been pilled enough. I don't know, based enough.
Yeah. I was listening to something the other day, and they were talking about how phones that still have the original Twitter logo on their phone are selling for like thousands and thousands of dollars. Like, I'm going to buy an iPhone 3 that has the old Twitter logo on it for no reason other than that.
I think I still have the old. My phone might be expensive. If anyone wants to buy my phone with the original Twitter logo on it, I'm not updating it. That's crazy. Like, why would you do that?
Well, see, because you didn't have to update it. I was on Twitter and then it just changed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to look. It may have changed on mine too. Once you connect to the internet, you're donezo, though. It'll just update. You spent $6,000 on a phone, and then it updates once you connect to Wi-Fi. What's the point of having a phone with the old logo on it?
I don't know.
I
think it's the same thing with that Flappy Bird game that came out a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah. People still have that.
Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars just for a game that nobody really liked because you couldn't get that far.
Did you play it?
I tried to, but it just frustrated me.
I was in college when that came out. Yeah. It was difficult. It's like have you ever been on your computer and you don't have internet and you play a little T-Rex game?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like that. That type of game. Very frustrating, but kind of fun to do. Dude, I don't know if you ever get lost in rabbit holes on YouTube, but one night this week, I'm on YouTube Shorts. That's where they catch me. I'm just mindlessly zonking and watching whatever pops up onto my algorithm. And it's this kid, and he's playing Tetris, and he plays the old, like, NES, Super Nintendo, maybe not Super Nintendo, whenever the controllers will look like a box Nintendo. And it's that Tetris. And what he's doing is it looks like he's like playing the guitar while he's playing Tetris. So I started looking at it. So I go on his channel, I'm reading about it, and this kid's like, I say kid, he may be 18. Like, lucky if he's 18, probably younger. But he's like a world Tetris champion. And what he does is he plays that old Nintendo controller. Yeah. And there's a way to do it. So he takes the controller and flips it around. Normally how you would hold it, thumb pad this way, and then the A, B on this side. Yeah. Flips it around and has it all one hand does the controls. And on the other hand, he strums the back of it. So the little pads, there's only 2 arrows you really need to click. Yeah. And it's too hard to click it with your thumb. You can't click fast enough. So they figured out a faster way is if you put your thumb over the button and hold the thing loosely and tap with each one of your fingers, it'll actually move. Those inputs will move your one input that way. So you can hit 4 or like 5 taps in a row quickly to move the thing back and forth. Really. That's so he can like, so he sits there and he's just like, to like get and as he's like he's solving at such a fast pace. It's the fastest way that they've figured out so far to move the inputs and make the blocks move this and that way.
That's
like,
so crazy.
What is going on?
Because I'm sure that looks like he's doing pretty much nothing. You know, he just barely hold on to this thing, smacking it, and it's just doing these complex movements. That's so crazy.
Yeah, he wears a glove and puts lotion on the back so he can there's no friction so he can slap. Wow. It's just like, so how do you get to that level? And
how does a game for children become that technical?
Right. That's a game for children in the 80s.
Exactly. That is nuts.
Or early 90s turned into that. It's just like, so anyways, that was my YouTube rabbit hole. I don't know why we're talking about that, but you just get to those levels of who knows what.
I think that's pretty interesting too. The YouTube shorts. Because that's just TikTok. Yeah. Some of them are actual TikToks. They just moved to YouTube. Right. It's the same it's the same thing. You're just mindlessly watching videos over and over and over.
Just not on TikTok platform on YouTube.
Just not on TikTok, yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty wild, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, dude, so the thing I saw on Twitter, they, in Yellowstone in the 90s, the national park, they released 12 wolves. Oh, okay. And I think I've heard of this, by releasing 12 wolves, I retweeted on X, Twitter. Okay. What it did is they started attacking the elk and deer. Well, what happened in Yellowstone is because there was no natural predators, the deer just ran and did whatever they want. So they were eating all of the plants. by adding these 12 wolves into the population, pushed the deer back, which then allowed vegetation to grow back up. And with vegetation, that means there was more berries and fruits and stuff. So then the small game population grew. They also got rid of all of the coyotes. And so there was more beavers. So the beavers came back, and because of the beavers came back, they restored the little waterways because they were like taking down the trees. Trees were able to grow that weren't there because the elks were eating them when they were younger. And so they literally decreased and stopped erosion of their streams and ponds because they introduced 12 wolves back into it because they needed the predators because the elks were going so hard. It was just great. So they were like doing all these things. They explained how bald eagles at one point were gone and weren't really part of that. They came back because there was just enough small game, and then that like expanded all these things and brought back to life. I mean, it was already there, but like kept it. It was out of balance a little bit, and because they had hunted all the wolves out of extinction.
That's so cool to hear that worked out, because you hear about so many times where people have tried to introduce other animals into
the rabbits in Australia.
Yeah, and then they introduced cats, and now there's an insane population of wild cats in Australia.
Really?
Yeah.
It's just
gosh. It's just one problem after another. It's wild.
Why are you doing this? Yeah. That's crazy. I do hear that. I think it's when you take unnatural things. Like wolves were probably already part of that region.
Oh, yeah.
And they hunted them out of extinction. Like, I think there's probably already a natural ecosystem, and when you come in and mess with it. Have you heard about permaculture?
I've heard the name, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, so Colin's the one that kind of put me onto this. And it's a lot of times we look at stuff in like a single view. Okay. And permaculture is all of the different aspects working together to create the environment you're looking for. And that's probably a slaughtered way of doing it. But you don't just grow one thing. You need to grow multiple things so that the soil is being done well, and then the pests are being dealt with by the different things you're growing. So you're growing 6 different things or 700 different things that then create the culture you're looking for, you know? Because you could just grow one crop, but you could grow a crop that helps that crop grow. And you could grow a crop that helps with the pests. You can grow a crop that helps with the bees so that they come and pollinate. You know what I mean? You just all those things you start. That's the permaculture.
It's crazy to see all these different plants that do all these different things. They all serve different purposes. Yeah. But in like in the wide scope, they're all serving one specific thing, and you don't see it because there's just so much.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You know, look at
they all have different jobs, but they're all like reaching the same goal. That's crazy.
Right. Yeah. Just to bear fruit.
Absolutely.
That's the key. New life. Next thing. So I love that. Yeah. Do you see that? You people on YouTube won't be able to see it. Do you see that purple or the pink flower over there?
Yeah.
That's a hibiscus flower. And so there's a tree back there, and we bring it in the winters. But it's one of the coolest little trees. It just is growing so well in that little spot. It's just vibing so well. It's been cool to watch, like, where we put the plant and how the plant interacts with the different things.
You say you'd never be able to tell that that's a separate plant.
Yeah, you think it's part of that whole. There's multiple plants over there.
I mean, you even see like over here what's this purple plant here? This purple flower.
Yeah, it's all over morning glories.
Morning glory. How it just wraps around these other plants, but it almost seems like it's holding the sunflowers up. It's not like it's strangling the plant or anything. It's just like it's a part of it, and it's keeping it together.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
Vines it right around. We did it. It was pretty crazy. We use this too for a lot of different things. It grabs stuff. I'm holding the tendrils of one of the morning glories, but you see how it's kind of like furry?
Yeah.
It'll literally like wrap around.
Like little grippers.
Little grippers. If I leave this for a day, it'll be intertwined with this like that on my microphone.
That's cool.
It just snags it. So what we do with this, if you look behind the camera, they're trailing over the top of this trellis as well. And what we did is, if you can see those tomato plants in the actual box, do you see how those little things are having it pulled up? Yeah. So we sent them down to grab the tomato plants and wrap around them, and then and then we killed it. Not the tomato plant, but the morning glory. Now the tomato plant's growing up.
All right. Yes.
And just
it's
walk
a natural trellis. That's so cool.
So we're doing a lot of that, and we're going to utilize that next year for our tomato beds, because I've trellised you can't see through. Maybe you can, but you see all those tomatoes there. I trust a lot of this stuff, but I'm like, well, why not just let nature do it? Why work harder when you could just have the? That was Allison's idea. I could take credit for it, but Allison for sure is the one that figured all this stuff out. It's so good. Just the bees vibing. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, man. Living.
Yeah.
Loving.
Yeah.
Existing in nature and life, dude. It's good. I'm doing great.
Just thriving.
Thriving.
Yeah.
100%, man.
I feel you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you have any? You don't do any plant growing, do you?
I tried a few times, but I just don't have the space for it.
Yeah.
You know, I think I could really get into it if I had, this kind of area. But I've got a porch, so
Right.
it's planted, or how do you say it? Potted plants.
Yeah.
That I could grow, and I just don't really have the capability to get the sunlight in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you're.
I'd like to someday, but for now, it's succulents for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I can keep them alive.
I'll tell you what. What I'll do is I'll get some of these morning glories and put them in a potted hanging basket.
There you go.
And they'll climb down. Wouldn't that be kind of cool?
That'd be sick. Yeah.
Actually, to see cascade down your.
Yeah.
That would be. Because you could probably is there a slit where they could go down the side of your house
Oh yeah. Well.
on the porch?
Yeah. Oh,
Kinda?
yeah.
If we set them on them.
Like an overhang. Yeah.
Because you're kind of south facing. I mean, you have another building, but
Well, see, the sun does come up to a certain spot. It's just kind of like the best part of the day for sunlight. I'm covered.
really,
So
yeah,
I suppose if you hit like the side of my porch, it would work. But that's not it's not a full day of sunlight.
Yeah.
Because I'm
These
so
morning
close to
glories
a what do you call it? What would you an alleyway?
yeah.
With that house on the other side of mine.
It blocks a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of shade because of that. These morning glories, it's really interesting because they're so purple. I love how violently purple they are, and
Deep. Yeah.
deep. And then once the sun comes out, they'll shrivel right up. They won't shrivel, but they'll close up, and they only come out when it's shaded.
That's crazy.
So
You told me about this last time I was here, and
yeah,
how does that work? You would think that they would be open during the sunlight to get as much.
their leaves are the thing that gives them energy. So they're just opening up and getting pollinated when it's dark out. And I think the insects that like it are nocturnal. Not sure. But that's why they're called morning glories. So you see them in the morning. But yeah, once the sun comes up, they'll literally curl back up and wait till it's dark out again to open up. So it's cool. I like them. But they go hard. And they're hard to get rid of after a while. But yeah, they're just one little thing, and it just wraps right up the sunflower plants. These are cool too because sunflowers really go deep into the soil and break things up.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is different plants that you plant into the soil really mess with the soil. Your normal just grass, the root system's only a couple inches deep.
Oh, okay.
So when you go to prairie, right, you wouldn't mow, they were just big, long. Those root systems get really deep because they can grow. I mean, we're just stunting new growth all the time. Sorry. So the roots are pretty low, maybe even that much. It's nothing crazy. These sunflowers send roots pretty deep. So if that then allows water to get down there, the soil becomes a lot better. It's deeper soil, better soil. Bugs can go down there a lot easier, all that stuff. So that's another really interesting thing.
I always thought grass it's a fascinating thing because, for one, I mean, if you were to go into an area that was untouched by man, just complete, there's not a lot of grass. I mean, it's covered. It looks more like this.
Yeah.
Right.
Looks like a forest.
So the town I grew up in had several fields. They just grow grass, like blue. What do they call Kentucky bluegrass?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
They're sod, right?
Yeah, sod.
Yeah.
Right. So near the end of the summertime, you see them they have these big machines that cut into the ground and they just kind of roll them up like it's carpet.
Yeah.
It's so odd.
It's because the root system is only
and you see miles and miles of pristine, bluish green grass. it doesn't belong there. It's just crazy. It just grows so strong. And, you know, it's just mind blowing to me that is something that's bought and sold. It's grass.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's like coveted. Like,
yeah,
you know, there's almost a culture about it too. It's like, who has the best?
Yeah.
You know,
who spends all their time outside of their normal jobs just cutting grass, making it look as pristine and perfect as possible, which is the most insane thing in the world to me.
I hear you, but then I walk around Goshen and there's some really beautiful gardens. You're like, thank you.
I don't want to take away the fact that they are, you know,
but
pretty
it's that
things to
pride
look
of
at.
having that lawn that's people are like, dang, I wish I had a lawn like that. You know, they don't spend a lot. Maybe they spend some time in it, but yeah.
If I ever were to have a lawn of my own, I want it to be impossible to walk through. I want it to look outrageous.
Don't do it in the city because you can get in trouble.
See, that's what I'm saying. That seems, it's understandable. You know, you want, you know, your city to look a certain way. You want everything to be kind of like, you know, intermingling with each other and just look like everything kind of fits in, you know. But I don't know.
Well,
it just seems
there's issues if you let things go unmanaged. Like this is managed chaos.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like these roots aren't going to mess with the septic or the sewer or the water. But if you let everything unmanaged and you let like trees start growing and things, you could get some issues in the future because it's not managed. Like there's a little bit of you gotta manage some stuff. But yeah, I agree. Like also, it doesn't have to be like super strict. I feel like I was walking over by the library and this yard had an award for the most beautiful garden in that neighborhood. So I could see why some people were like, well, we didn't win this year, but man, if we had some Kentucky bluegrass right in the front here, maybe it would work. You know what I mean? I could see some people getting to that level. But
I don't know. It just seems so like
superficial.
Superficial and also like what's the term? Like monocrop. Like
not permaculture.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, like, you know, I'll bring this up again, but like where I grew up, it's the corn seed capital of the world, right? Yeah. Everywhere, it's just grass and corn, and there is nothing else. Yeah. Year after year, same thing every year, you know? And it just seems, that can't be good.
No.
You know? Because the more
your town's run by Monsanto, isn't it?
Monsanto and Pioneer.
Oh, my word.
Both of them.
Yeah.
On either
the
side
two
of the
horns
road.
of the devil, right?
They're on either side of the road, peering through their towers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this, like, at least...
Don't you guys have water problems, don't you? Because of the Monsanto, or no?
I mean, I'm sure they do, but I doubt there's anybody there
there's that
to look.
river, right, that runs through here.
Yeah, the St. Joe runs right through the middle of town, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if, like, Monsanto's dumping their excess products right into the St. Joe.
You know, I doubt there's been any studies, but I'm sure as soon as somebody did, they'd find stuff, for sure. I mean, there's already times where, like, certain parts of that river, specifically in that area... Fish are way bigger or way smaller than they're supposed to be.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. This was something that got me. I don't know. Again, I was in just this time it wasn't a YouTube rabbit hole. It was just a Timon hole.
Timon hole.
That sounds bad. But I was just like thinking about something, and you just start thinking about this, and then this, and then this. You ever do that, where you just go on like a train of thought, just follow it to wherever? This thought I was having is if I ever got invited on a local podcast in this area that's not mine, what I would say, like what outrageous things I would say. And then I got to this part. And I think it's a legitimate thought, is like, why are we called Elkhart County? Elkhart is Elkhart, Elkhart. So it's an Indian word, Elkhart. What do you do with Elkharts? Why were Elkharts such a big thing in this area? And I'm thinking sacrifices, dude. Right?
Yeah.
Like our human heart. I mean, I don't know. Just like, oh, this looks like an elk heart. That's the story. Supposedly there was a little in Elkhart, the city. There is a little island that they have these festivals on called like Rhapsody in Green or all these things. They do it in Elkhart.
Yeah.
And supposedly the Indians, Native Americans, or indigenous people, whatever you want to call them, the feathers, they thought that this specific island looked like an Elkhart. Or that's one story. Another story from a different tribe is that someone stored an Elkhart in a knot in a tree in that island. Those are two stories. But I'm over here thinking, what if they just sacrificed a bunch of elks on that island? And that's what I would probably talk about on a local podcast, just to freak them out a bit. You know what I mean?
Well, you freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah. And it's connected to the river. I don't know. So you just start wondering about some of that stuff. I was thinking about the Freemason building. Did I ever send that to you? Did you ever look at that? The one in Goshen?
Oh, no, I haven't seen
So it was for sale.
Okay.
And it's trippy. So if you look up Freemason building Goshen, you can look at all the pictures that they do in Goshen. And so you look at, they've got different rooms. In one room is the room where it's completely shut off, no windows. So you can see it when you're walking on the outside. You see that.
Yeah.
In there it looks like 2 or 3 big throne chairs on one side, and then behind them is the wall is lined with chairs in a circle. And in the middle is an altar with a little stand just in this middle of this big room. Then there's some other stuff, but it's just kind of like, what's going on in there? It's kind of like a courtroom with an altar in the middle, some big throne chairs, and then like a caucus around it, if that makes sense. I don't know if caucus is the right word, but like a circle of chairs. And then in another room, there's definitely a pentagram on the wall. Like that's not, it was their tenants in the pentagram. Yeah. Yeah. They're selling it for $420,000. Yeah, what's up with that?
Don't know.
4 + 2 = 6. 6 is the number of man. Or 420. Who knows? You know what I mean? Maybe it was just subtle.
It's too early in the morning to give me this amount of
I know,
dude.
I know. That's where I was. That's the timid hole I was in. It was just like following this.
Yeah.
These are all things I would probably. Anyway.
You know, it's interesting. So I had a great uncle. He passed away. 2007, so however many years ago. And as a family, we were kind of going through his room. He stayed with my grandparents because he was in a wheelchair. He had polio as a kid, so he couldn't move his legs. So he had stayed with my grandparents pretty much his whole life. And we were cleaning out his room, and I started finding things. Like I found his robes.
Freemason robes?
Yeah, his Freemason robes. He had a couple of pins, some rings, stuff like that.
Probably a Freemason book or what?
I didn't find any books, but mostly Hustler magazines. But that's a different story. But it was just, I wish. The curious part of me would have liked to have talked to him to see what that is.
Like his brain.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he would have been able to tell you.
Yeah.
He may have been able to tell you some.
Yeah.
Do you get certain rings too if like you bring your kids in? There's like established things. Like if you bring a relative in, or if your dad's been a Freemason, his dad was a Freemason, and then you become one. Yeah, you'll get like higher level because of that. There's a lot of different. I heard a guy talking about it again on Twitter, but there's levels to it. I mean, once you get up to the highest level, you realize that Satan's in control, supposedly.
Well, see, that's what I've always thought, because I have had some conversations in the past with certain people where we're like at the very base level of it all, where it's just like I had some family members that were in it, and it's like a men's group. It's like you're in an area where you don't really get to be with other men and like conversate and down that line. But and so like that's what it was for one person I talked to, and then you talk to another person and it's complete secrecy. Like it's almost like
we can't talk about
you're at the very beginning, so it's just like, yeah, I'm part of a group, and now all of a sudden there's like deeper meanings and secret rooms and
rituals,
meetings that don't hush hush.
Yeah.
Just
well, it's the robes. I mean, you said the robes. They literally are like tasseled, robed. They have garment. They have like chest,
like a
chest
purple
plates.
robe.
Yeah.
Simulate royalty.
It's weird. They act out secret texts that are supposedly older than the Bible. That's what they say. The Sumerian Phoenician texts. So they'll read these things and then they'll act them out and do these like mock sacrifices. Are you familiar with Aleister
Crowley?
Crowley? Yeah.
I know the name. I know a little
Don't know if I
bit.
talked to you about this last time, but one of the things that he was a huge Satanist.
Yeah.
And really brought that to the forefront of popular culture in the 19th, 20th century. And so he talks about not actually doing the act. So like you don't actually have to sacrifice someone. You can mimic it. It's the copying, the mimicking, the acting it out. That's just the same, or if it's as powerful as actually doing the act because you're kind of mimicking it. So it's just pretty fascinating to they may not be sacrificing someone, but they're definitely doing these rituals.
They have the intent to, which I think makes it. I mean, it's just powerful. I mean, some of that.
I went to this meeting. It wasn't like a closed door secret meeting, but it's like one of those clubs that you go. It's like a networking meeting, and at this meeting they start out. They hit a bell, ding, and then they sing 3 songs, and they had these little like songbook. It wasn't religious, but one of them was. It's like a classic American, like, I don't know, not this, maybe Star Spangled Banner or something. And another one was about being happy and doing good works. This little songbook. And then at the end, they did their meeting. And then at the end, they all hit the gong again. Everyone stood up and then said their 4 tenets, which is, positivity. They're nothing like, but they're rituals. It was interesting. I'm watching. I'm like, this is a ritual for something. I don't know what it is, but.
That sounds remarkably similar to like the churches I grew up in, where it's just like, hey, it's time to start, sit, you can get up, sing 3 songs, have the service, and then at the end there might be like a group prayer.
Yeah.
And then, bell goes off.
That's true too. That's a ritual as well. Where did that ritual come from? So you don't see that. Satan. Yeah, probably. You're probably not wrong, dude. It's just, it's a formula. Someone told me, it was Kyle. One time Kyle told me, he said, anytime there's a formula, that's a spell. Because you're doing these things to elicit this reaction. So, I don't know. Formulas freak me out a little bit. Yeah. And that's why.
Anything that's like.
Think about Elkhart's.
Formulas, rituals. Rituals, I mean, just ritualism in general. I just don't. I don't know. It gives me the heebie-jeebies, honestly, because it just seems, you lose all the intention you're meant to do it, like when you're doing those things, and then it means something completely different than you realize.
Yeah. But sometimes you need. I understand why people do rituals because it helps them remember. It's like if you went to the gym every day, you know what I mean, like. You've set that ritual in your life for that discipline, maybe in a way. That might be part of it. You do these things and then you get rewarded. Sometimes you don't want to go to the gym, but you're like, this is what I do. This is how I do it. This is my time. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I guess it understands it, but when it comes to certain things, especially like religion in general, it just seems very like not okay.
Yeah. It's weird. Dude, it's weird too because I don't think we know what's going on, that we want to act like we know what's going on. So let me tell you something I was reading the other day, and I was talking to Allison about this, and we were having the same discussion that we're talking about right now. So I'm reading in the Old Testament, and King David, he's not king yet. So he's actually working for Saul, who is the king of Israel. And Saul gets these evil spirits. So what the text says. And David goes and plays his harp or larp or whatever, lyre for him, whatever musical instrument calms him down. Saul's determined to kill him. He's done this before. He's tried to kill David before by throwing a spear at him, and David evades. Well, this time, he's like, I'm definitely going to kill him. So he goes and tries to kill him. Doesn't kill him. Misses. David hides, gets away, goes to his wife, which is Saul's daughter. So at this point, he's married to the princess of the king of Israel. And she's like, dude, you need to dip, or my dad's for sure going to kill you. And he's like, all right, okay. So he dips. Well, then Saul's daughter goes and grabs just the household idol. No big deal. And I look up what idol means. It's literal, like, figure of a lesser god. So they living in David's household is an idol, chilling. Takes this idol, puts goat hair over it, pretends like he's not even there. So he dips. He runs to the prophet Samuel of Israel at this point. So, and he's the one who anointed David, anointed Saul. He's like the big kahuna. Yeah. The book's called 1 Samuel. Yeah. It's like the first book of this same. He's like the big dig. So Saul comes. David's gone. He sends messengers after him. He's like, go get them. Go get David. The messengers go. They find David. They start prophesying. Nothing happens. Saul's like, mother trucker. Sends another group of messengers after him. They don't get to him. They start prophesying. So Saul then goes, gets to him. He gets there, starts prophesying. Takes off all of his clothes and is naked for one day on the ground, naked prophesying. I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I look up what prophecy means, because that was what I was wondering. Yeah. What does prophecy mean at this point? Look it up. The text says religious ecstasy. What the heck is religious ecstasy? And is that happening at churches?
Depends on if you're dancing with a snake or not.
Yeah, it depends on, but it's like, what? Then, so you get to this point and you're going, what is going on? Because it's not what I ever think. Yeah. It's not what it's just a different level of what is going on. And then I start looking up what religious ecstasy is, the first time it's been prophecy. First time you see prophecy is when Moses gets like 70 leaders to help govern Israel back when they're in the desert. It's just like, what's going on here? Religious ecstasy. Such a weird, to the point where this guy gets naked and is just on the ground, just ecstasy for a day. Yeah. But anyways, you were saying that, it's just, when I hear that stuff, it's like, we're with something that we don't really fully realize, and this 3 songs in a sermon isn't doing what it needs to be doing, because no one's getting naked. And imagine if you went to your church and everyone was naked, just like writhing on the ground. How weird would that be?
And that makes me wonder about the connection to some churches that have, like, you walk in and there's blankets.
Oh, yeah.
Like off to the side, because like in the middle of service, some little old lady will start, dancing, spazzing out and falling to the ground, and then they put the blanket over it to like not distract from what's happening. And it's like, is that religious ecstasy, or is that just a performance? It's
some of that stuff. And that's the thing. Like, is it a performance? Yeah. Because I think there is some of that. I think there's a lot of that.
Yeah, I think there's quite a bit of that, but at the same time, not all of them.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's what I think about it, because it's like, especially when I was first starting on, like, really looking into like speaking in tongues in general, like that thing specifically, because that was such a hard thing for me to grasp, because every time I would see that or experience that, it just felt like I don't know if that, because to me, I'm like, was that a necessary thing, or like, what's happening that caused that, or what's the result of that? You know what I mean? Is it just like somebody saying a bunch of gibberish and then going on with their day? Like, like that wasn't just
what I think about this, dude, because I remember when I was young, and this kid that I knew, he comes up to me and says, I can speak in tongues. So he does it. And I'm like, okay. And then, I was probably like 10. I'm like, this guy doesn't. He's just doing it because everyone else is doing it. And this dude may or may not have spoken tongues, but his life did not reflect anything biblical. Watch it for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? I think it was all just trying to do it. And that interaction I had is what I applied to everything. Like, all right, does this guy actually speak in tongues, or is it legit or not? Now, it's interesting because my parents growing up spoke in tongues. But I only saw it a couple times, or a few times. It wasn't never like, I don't know. It wasn't forced. It wasn't pushed. I thought there was some authentication to it. But I saw a lot of garbage. I think you can pick that up after a while. But it goes, I
don't know. And I don't know. It was just something that was hard for me to grasp because I saw so much of it that was pretty clear to me. Just it was somebody who wanted to speak in tongues, so they like inserted that into what they were doing.
Yeah.
You know, and it was, I don't know.
Someone explained it to me like this. It's like you're a little kid and you just get a toy. Yeah. And you go around and you're like, look at my toy, look at my toy, look at my toy, look at my toy. And you're like, okay, dude, like, chill. Like, this is maybe not something that you need to be showing everyone and yelling out to the top of the. Yeah. Maybe it is. I don't know, but then sometimes
you know,
like,
and I can't say that it's something that should specifically be in private, but I didn't have any grasp of it until, what was it, about 2 years ago, maybe? Just about 2 years ago. I'm at work, and I just started in a new place, and everybody's gone. I am by myself, and I was having a really bad day, you know, and part of me was like, well, there's nobody's here, so I'm just trying to talk to God. I'm speaking out loud, and I'm just like, you know, trying to get some help through this day. So I was just, for whatever reason, I was just having a really bad day, you know. And that's all I was doing. I was just talking to God, and then a guy comes around the corner and scares like the living crap out of me. And there's like an office connected to the warehouse I was working in. It was one of the office workers, and I got to know him a little bit. He was his family's from Greece.
Okay.
Right. And he comes around. He starts asking me questions. I was like, it's kind of weird. Because he was asking me about what I was talking about, like he was answering like back to the things I say, because he tells me that I didn't know you spoke Greek. I wasn't speaking Greek. I mean, to me, I wasn't speaking Greek.
Wow.
I was just talking to God.
Wow.
You know, and for whatever reason,
he heard it in Greek.
Yeah.
What? What in the world?
And I thought,
you were just saying the things that you were feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
Deeply feeling. I've done that before. Where I remember driving and just like, it didn't make sense to me, but it was what I was feeling at that time. Just letting it out. I think you need to do that. That's pretty intimate.
You just,
That's weird, dude. That's crazy.
Well, like you say, was speaking back to me in Greek, and that's what confused me, because like I didn't understand what he was saying. Yeah. And then I was like, what's going on? He goes, I didn't know you spoke Greek. And I thought, what?
Yeah. It's like, no, you were speaking Greek.
You know, and he sits there and he tells me pretty much everything, or at least what he had heard of me as he was walking up.
Wow.
I'm thinking, so this is real.
Yeah. Oh, my. That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes... Yeah, that's crazy. But that's not... that wasn't a doing it for show thing. You know, you were just feeling it and releasing it. Yeah. I think there's something to that.
You know, and I think those things happen for a reason, because that opened up communication with that person, you know, and I got to talk to him, you know, in a deeper way.
Well, it's probably a faith thing for you, too. Yeah. Like, oh, wow. Like, that's a little miraculous in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, dude, speaking of tongue stuff is weird. All of it is... Do you think the reason why we're so skeptical is because we live in a place that they sacrifice to elks?
It very well could be.
Right, they set that like...
There is a definite, like, tonal change when you enter this area. This area, like this county in general, but like Elkhart specifically, like the town of Elkhart. I mean... Even as I'm driving, I technically are in Elkhart County, but even as I transition from Goshen to Elkhart, as I'm coming into work, there is a definite like
shift.
There's a shift in the way you like, the way you feel and the way you hear things. Almost, it's very like, I don't know. I'd hesitate to say spiritual, but it's very like, you feel it, like almost like a heaviness, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder some of that, like what was going on here. We don't know. We're so unaware of what was going on in the past. 200 years ago, we don't know what happened 200 years ago, where other cultures have known for thousands of years what has happened in this location. Here, we have no clue. It's been literally wiped clean. There used to be wild rice that would grow.
It's really
huge squirrel that just walked over there. Get out of here, squirrel.
Don't get
Get out of here. I found one of my tomatoes chewed up. It was pretty sad. And one of my pears, a really ripe pear. I was pretty ticked. I cut off most of it. And my peach. Remember my big old peach?
Yeah.
It fell off.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but I ate a good portion of it.
My sister-in-law, her dad, well, I guess it's her stepdad, but he grows quite a bit of fruit, because they live in Florida. So he grows like pineapples and guava fruit, pears. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And
mangoes.
Mangoes. Oh, mangoes.
Oh, man.
Coconuts. He's got a coconut tree. Let me tell you, I've hated coconuts my whole life. I can't stand the smell, the taste.
Yeah.
It just, it's off-putting.
Yeah.
And as soon as I
get artificial, maybe, or something.
When we went down to my brother and his daughter got married, the very first thing he says to me, he goes, "You want a coconut?" And I'm like, oh, obviously I don't want a coconut, but I'm visiting this new place. I'll just try it. It's not the end of the world if I try something I don't like. And we go to his backyard. He just chops one off a tree with a machete, cuts it open, dumps it into a bucket of ice water. Yeah. Hands it to me. And it was the most delicious thing I've ever drank in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, it was lifeblood, dude. It was so delicious.
Oh, yeah.
And then he gives me chunks of the meat inside, and I wanted more. I was like they're supposed to be coming up, and I am begging him to find a way to bring a coconut.
Oh yeah.
It was
4
so
or
good.
10, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, I say all this because when he was showing me around his house, showing me his garden and the plants he was growing, the only thing that he uses is a mixture of vinegar and water and a couple other things. It's just natural stuff, and he sprays it on certain
plants and stuff. Yeah, it's a pest repellent.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah. Uh-huh. There's natural stuff to that. I just don't really. Yeah. I do it. I don't really do it. Yeah. It's the squirrels I gotta figure out. There's probably natural pest repellent for the squirrels. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I was in Hollywood, Florida.
Yeah.
Which is near West Palm, not far from it. And I was with a dude there, and he took me through his mango garden. His whole house was all this, and he had 20 different mango plants, and we gathered a bunch of them, and then he's like, taste each one. And they all tasted different. They're all fantastic, but they all had different sweetness and tartness, and it was crazy.
He had so many that were different shapes and sizes and colors.
Yeah.
And then to try a 100% fresh, right off the tree, mango smoothie. Oh,
there's definitely a level. Same with the tomatoes I've been eating. It's just there is something so good to a tomato right from the garden. Mm-hmm. It just is another level. Same with blueberries. Allison, we go to her house, her grandparents' house, and get blueberries, and they're just oh my word, just pop.
Yeah. I've been slowly introducing blueberries back in my life.
Takes a little while.
Yeah. It takes a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a traumatic experience.
I'm sure I've told that story.
Yeah, but still.
It's still I don't know. Trying them now, it's frustrating because they are delicious. And I miss so many years of sweet, delicious blueberries.
Yeah, but it's okay. You still got a lot more years of sweet, delicious blueberries.
That's true.
Can't kick yourself. Uh-huh. That's funny. Yeah. There's something to that.
Yeah.
Dude, the bees are just vibing, bro.
It's so cool, man.
There's so many of them, too. We need to get bees. It'd be cool to have a little beehive.
Absolutely, it would.
Oh. Yeah, the garden's fun, man. It's nice to have.
It's so cool, to me, there's a lot of bees here, but it's not just bees. It's so many plants, so many plants, so many insects, working with each other, and not there's no arguments, there's no war, there's no fighting.
Right,
it's
no
just,
traffic jams.
We're all just existing, eating off of this plant, which in turn is growing more of these plants.
Which helps the plant grow even better. Yeah. And how thick that's such a thick stalk of sunflower. You know what I mean? It's just so thick. No, I love it. Shoot, I had a thought, now it's gone. But yeah, no, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, no bad vibes, just good vibes out here. There's flies. There's bees. There's plants.
And there's us.
And then there's us in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
Can't beat that. You definitely can't beat that. No, there's something to it all growing together. Ooh, give you a little basil.
Ooh.
Here, have some basil.
I've always wondered,
I love this
what
stuff.
exactly does this do?
I don't know.
I mean, you put it, like, so many recipes, especially, like, Italian-centered recipes, like...
Oh, I put this in all my recipes.
Yeah,
It adds
always,
a lot of zing to it.
Always put basil. But does it really? Because it doesn't really have much of a taste, though, does it?
Smell it. That's pretty intense, right? That smell goes into your, like, dilutes into the...
I see.
I'll take wads of it, chop it up, and then throw it in and, like, blend it down. We got oregano in the front, too, so I do both. Oregano's even... not as potent, but it does add like a complexity to, like you're getting the tomato taste, but then like a basil and a garlic and an oregano, and those all add to it. A little bit of wine.
Not to throw off this conversation, but that reminds me when I was in high school, there was a kid that used to quote unquote sell weed to the younger kids in high school, and it was just oregano. So you'd be kids in class that are like vomiting violently or just having severe hallucinations.
Because they're smoking oregano?
Yeah, well, you would take oregano and it's very like clumped together. It's like chunks. Just eat it.
They would eat it?
Yeah, they would eat it and then just have like violent convulsions on the floor.
Do people normally just eat weed? Like they'll just take weed?
No.
Your high school
It was a weird place.
They didn't smoke it?
I'm sure they did, but I don't know.
They got a better vibe off of eating it.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I didn't go to school with, I'd say, the smartest bunch. I'll say that.
They're just trying to cop a feel.
Yeah, it'd probably be like, hey, I dare you to eat this,
They're into it.
Convincing them that it was weed and it was just oregano, so they'd just be like immediately throwing up everywhere.
Oh, how do you... Do you come out of high school like, was that an enriching experience or was it more of like just a crazy?
I'd say it was more crazy than anything else. Yeah. It's like, it's not that I didn't learn anything, but I couldn't tell you a single thing specific. Like, I don't know. I just don't remember. It's so odd. I think about that now. I don't remember any of my classes. I remember the people. I remember the teachers. I remember experiences from school.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you anything I learned.
Wow. Yeah.
It was just like, it was like a cage. It was just like a cage with a bunch of crazy children.
Yeah.
And like adults trying to keep everybody from losing their minds. And it was so,
That is. That is weird. Do you remember sports?
I do. I do remember sports.
I feel like that was more of an impact than...
Yeah, I think so. I think I learned probably more from sports than I did from school.
I mean, we know how to add, and so we know some simple math, and we know how to read and write. So I think maybe that's part of it.
Sports is the reason I learned that adults, or that's how I learned, I should say, that adults are just children.
Really?
We're all just children of different ages. Yeah.
Watching your
absolutely nobody knows.
Out.
Yeah. Absolutely nobody has any clue what's going on at any time.
Really?
We're all just existing. Like I remember having that exact thought after I was in baseball and we had a big sectioned off cross country track.
Yeah.
They'd have to run it so many times to get the desired mileage, but in baseball, that was the first thing we did every day. Is we would run this one lap around. I mean, basically, it's like half the town. We'd have to run.
Wow.
Around.
Okay.
And we'd do like a little bit through the woods, and then we'd be running like past the local gas station, and then just kind of like in cleats
across the bridge, and then,
And I remember like the second time I did that, I'm just exhausted. I have no I wanted to hit a ball. Why am I running this far?
Yeah.
I just had this this epiphany that coaches, everybody, nobody has any clue what's going on.
Let's go do this.
We're just like, this is probably going to work. Go ahead, give it a try.
Wasn't conditioning. It was just.
Yeah.
It probably was good for you.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm 100% sure it was good for me, but it was just like.
What's going on here?
It was that moment where I realized that we're just, it's just, I don't know. We're all just alive.
Yeah. We're all just trying to figure it out. That's hilarious.
And it's interesting running through the structures of society, where it's like, see the manicured lawns and the concrete,
Yeah, the
bricks,
the Kentucky bluegrass.
the Kentucky bluegrass, and then you're immediately in woods.
Oh, that's
where
kind of
it's
crazy.
just like everything is wild, and I mean, there's like,
and there's probably a heat difference. That's what I've been noticing. In the shade, you just instantly get cooler.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I just say all that heat emanating from like the concrete on the ground,
Yeah.
and the
The no shade
asphalt,
and the-
just
yeah.
I don't know. It was just that was a pretty sobering experience. Now that I think about it, too,
Wow.
It's just like you're like thrust into society and all of these things, and this is what people do, and then all of a sudden there's just
Nature.
freedom. It's just like everything is going to do whatever it wants, and there's nothing that's going to say no. And the only thing that's stopping them is a little like patches of dirt where people had ran. You know, and that's it. And everything's
Because
just green.
you've walked that trail for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
You just need to add wolves to the ecosystem.
Exactly.
Just to pick off the kids that run too slow. Bring back the wildlife in another level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's crazy, man. That is a sobering experience to think about. I love going out in nature because when you get out in nature, it's like, ooh, what is going on over here? This is a little bit different. This is a little bit more natural. That's why I love the garden too. You know, you get to see things you don't see. Yeah, the sounds.
Sounds and the colors. Just the, you know, it's crazy. You just like sit and be still, and then everything is just moving.
Around, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and like even on this podcast, I've seen a couple of like these morning glories.
Yeah. That's
Like,
crazy.
Move over to one thing and grab it. Move over to another.
No way.
We went and watched Joe for one night.
Yeah.
Well, I just let him out, and we were over at
Yeah.
their house, and it's like way more silent because you're in the woods, and it's like, dude,
And
this is a vibe.
it's crazy to think now. Like when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time, and we had a couple of acres.
Yeah.
I mean, probably only three at the most, but it led all the way up to the St. Joe River.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of creeks that ran through, so there was just like our yard,
Love
and
that.
then everything's overgrown past it. You know,
Yeah.
so it's just
Wild, yeah.
yeah. And I would spend a good chunk of my summer just out there, and we'd go camping, and
Yeah.
have like bonfires or just
Make
or
little
just-
huts and
yeah.
paths, and
I'd make all kinds of stuff in the woods.
That's
You know,
awesome.
Just little trails or forts. It was just like.
and you probably remember those woods like the back of your hand
Oh, yeah.
too.
And it was just, it's an interesting thing because you go out now, like if you and me were just to find a patch of woods and go out there and you notice how silent it is, but the longer you sit there, like if I were to just spend like 2 days after that second day of just sitting in the woods, you start to hear it's just as busy as it would be
yeah.
a city. I mean, there's just so much going on. There's so many different animals. I mean, millions of different animals.
Yeah.
Of all shapes and sizes.
Creatures and
anywhere from insects to wolves. Just
Right.
existing and doing things and moving things around or catching dinner. It's just so cool to think that like to view it as silent and then to realize that it's just like
Yeah.
everything is constantly in motion.
Well, you get out there and you can hear, but that's happening around you, but you don't see it because you're caught with the trains and the
Yes.
cars and the planes and then when you're like, oh, I can hear the bugs. That's the one thing that we were talking about when we went out to let Joe out. We're like,
Yeah.
we can hear the bugs. It's like, yeah, well, they're just like, wah, 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 like going so hard, but yeah, you can hear them.
One of my favorite things when I was a kid, when we would set up because we would set up our tents right next to like the tree line,
Mm-hmm.
and right on the other side. So there was woods, big chunk of woods that led to the river on one side, and in the front of their house was our yard, a highway, and then 10 or 11 acres of corn,
Mm.
and then like a tree line all the way in the back. And you could, if you sat real quiet at night, you could hear coyotes talking to each other.
No way.
And then on the other side, frogs. It was just this like cacophonous noise that like it's almost like annoying.
Wow.
It's just
Just
constant noise.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when I go to my grandma's house up in Michigan, and you just sit out there and you just hear the like, it'll ebb in and out.
Exactly.
They're like really intense and then go right back down to like really chill. And then like overwhelming loudness, and then it'll go like back to quiet. It's this like the cicadas are pretty fascinating too. I've seen the cicadas have been out. I found one on my front porch, and it's like they also have a conversation or like a pattern that they do things in. It's solid. Yeah, Garden's wild, man. Well, it's 11:10. I know you wanted to probably start wrapping it up at this point. What else you want to talk about? They're turning our cicadas trans, dude. It's not good.
Cicadas?
Cicadas.
That's a good question. How often do they... I know it's like... Because they bury themselves...
17 years.
17?
Supposedly. But they can't figure it out. That's the thing. The scientists can't figure it out. They don't know what triggers it. They don't know if it's like temperature or who knows what.
Let's say, because this would be... Like, I haven't seen any cicadas yet, but if the cicadas are out, this means that this will be the third time that I have seen, like...
They were out, a bunch of them were out 3 years ago.
Interesting.
A ton. I remember seeing a ton of them. I remember seeing them swarm 3 years ago. Not here, but southern Indiana. It was just nuts what they were doing. Like, I was walking, and there was holes in where I was walking.
Have you ever seen one come out of the ground?
I did.
It's nuts, dude.
Really?
I remember as a little kid, we were in the front yard of my uncle's house. It was one of his daughter's birthdays, and you could start hearing like the noise, like the
rattle,
buzzing, the rattling noise. And I'm looking at this tree, and I see this like mound of dirt just kind of like start to spiral up. It almost looked like a drill bit coming out, and it's like it spun itself out. It was going back and forth. It was the wildest thing.
What? And it pops out.
And then just goes immediately to the tree, and then they start to
molt, right? Yeah. Whoa.
And I just like within a day, we went back, and there it was, but it was gone.
Right.
It was just
the shell was there.
That like brownish yellow husk of what used to be.
Yeah. It's I have one of those on my front porch.
Yeah. It's also, I don't mean to like switch up a little bit. It's fascinating that
the pause. Wow. Pray for
that.
that.
On fire.
Yeah.
But everything that's alive basically does the same thing to like different degrees. But like technically, it takes about 7 years, but we molt.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, was it every 7 years?
We change.
Our skin is different.
Every cell of the body.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are a different person than you were 7 years ago. That's pretty fascinating. Yeah, it's there's like a religious aspect to cicadas too.
Yeah.
Like some religions view them to be pretty interesting because there's like levels to it. I think it's Indian, because I think cicadas are really only a North American phenomenon, if I remember right. I don't think it's a global thing, but there's just not a lot of understanding of what they are. I wonder if they're a sign of the times. Like, hey, things are about to be shaken up a little bit.
You know what I saw? It was 2 days ago. It's the first time I've seen them since I was in kindergarten, because we had, I guess technically raised some. You know the monarch butterfly? Mm-hmm. As a kid, I remember seeing them constantly.
Yeah.
They were everywhere. You could, like, at some points, especially where I lived, they would all like nest together, so they would cover trees. You would see like whole chunks of tree. It was all orange because of the butterflies.
Wow.
Right, and then it was the same. It was almost like they did it identical with like ladybugs. I mean, there were times where I'd come home from doing something during the summertime, and they would be, it would be the fall. It was like right at the beginning of school almost, and there would be so many ladybugs on the side of my house that you couldn't see like the brown underneath. It was all like covered, just red. And then, through the years they just disappeared. Like I haven't seen a monarch, but from that point, from like I would say kindergarten to 2 days ago, it was the first time I seen a monarch butterfly in that amount of time, like in person.
They're on the decline. There's like only 10% of what they used to be 20 years ago. Yeah. There's a little fact. What it is people aren't planting things that monarchs like to. You gotta give them food. You gotta give them. This was what I was gonna say. I remember this thought. Colin told me this. I really like it. When you plant certain plants, it's almost like you're planting certain bugs. Like these bugs don't show up until you have the plant that they're interested in. So you literally, even though it's not like the bugs are being planted because of you. You're planting something that brings them. So it's almost like you're spawning new bugs.
Okay.
That's pretty fascinating to think about that.
I mean, and it's interesting too because butterflies in general, I don't see a lot of.
Yeah.
And to see that monarch the other day really like brought me joy because it's just something that you just I don't like that. I guess that makes a lot of sense too because it was that time. I wonder if it has to do with where like I know I had mentioned that the cornfield was next to my house.
Yeah.
It wasn't always corn. A lot of, like when I was little, there was a lot of he would go back and forth between that and like beans and some other plants.
Yeah.
You know, to kind of, and then there was a very long period where every year was corn. Corn. And I imagine it was
part of the beans.
I wouldn't say it was probably natural corn.
Oh yeah, well you're in the corn seed capital.
Yeah.
Of course it's not natural.
But it, you know, I wonder if that affected the ladybugs too, because it was just like, all of a sudden. I mean, I'd still see them, you know, every once in a while. I mean, I saw a couple yesterday, but like ladybugs in general, to see them be that like largely together to just I might see one occasionally.
Yeah.
So odd.
Yeah.
It's kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
Because
those things really deal with pests too. Mm-hmm. They do a really good job of cleaning things up.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's say take care of mosquitoes, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Don't worry, we got Bill Gates. He'll take care of the mosquitoes for us. It's not a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah, we love him.
Yes.
Well, we should wrap this up, man. Phil, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah. You want to let anyone know anything? I got you. He's not gay no more. He is delivered.
I don't like men's no more.
I don't like men's no more. Women.